Armenia. See, I'm here in Armenia. See the background? That proves that I'm in Armenia. I don't know if that's an Armenian wall hanging or not. But Armenia. I am here for approximately 3 weeks working on various Five Flags aspects. I've been here for about 2 weeks. And so in this video, I'm going to give you the entire rundown on the country of Armenia from an Alpha Male 2.0 perspective, from a international Five Flags perspective. And toward the end of this video, I will give you the lowdown on the women here, because I know that's what most of you are most interested in, is how are the women? So I will cover that toward the end of the video. I have never been to Armenia before, and specifically I am in Yerevan, Armenia, which is by far the largest city and where most of the people in Armenia live. Armenia is a small country in the Caucasus, and the Caucasus is really three countries. It's Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. And fortunately, because I live in Dubai, Armenia is a very easy trip for me. It's about 2.5 hours by plane, kind of nice. And in coming to Armenia, I was a little concerned because I was worried I wouldn't like it. Because I can't tell you all the Five Flags stuff I'm doing here publicly. I'm doing a number of things. And some of them are relatively complicated, but I'm doing a number of things. And I was worried I wouldn't like it. So I was like, I was sitting on the plane thinking, please, I hope Armenia is cool. I hope I like. If I don't like it, I'm still gonna have to go there a lot. And it'll be more of a problem in my life if I don't like this country. Hopefully I like it. And I've been here for about 2 weeks and I like it. It's good, thank God. I'm so happy I like this country. It's actually very good. I really like Armenia a lot. And if I spend a lot of time here over the future, which I'm going to, I may come to love Armenia as much, maybe not quite as much, but close to as much as countries like Paraguay and Panama. It's really good here. So what I'm gonna do in this video is I'm gonna give you the good things about Armenia, the neutral things about Armenia, and the negatives of Armenia, because every country has all three. Every country has good things, and Armenia has a lot of good things. And every country has interesting facts, factoids that are neither good nor bad, and every country has problems and disadvantages, and of course Armenia has those too. So I'm gonna cover all those in this video, give you the entire rundown, and throughout this video, I will put some clips in of some video I've taken throughout this trip. Armenia, specifically Yerevan, is a really cool city to visit, and I recommend it quite a bit, especially if you have interest in Five Flags. In terms of Five Flags, I'll give you a hint. Armenia is one of those countries where it is relatively easy to get residency. It is not easy to get residency, it is relatively easy to get residency. The path to residency and eventual citizenship too is a little weird and it's a little complicated, and every country is very different about this. And I've run into some interesting things, not problems, but interesting aspects that I haven't run into before with other countries with these legal processes, opening up bank accounts, purchasing assets here, corporate assets, land. I'm looking at a lot of different things. And so it's compared to other countries, it's pretty good. That's why I'm here. So let's dive in. Let's cover the good things about Armenia. Number one, top of the list, no masks here. They don't wear masks here. Indoors and outdoors, you don't have to wear a mask in Yerevan, Armenia. Hallelujah. I can't tell you how wonderful this is to finally, after about 1.5 years, be in a place where I don't have to constantly wear a goddamn mask. And if you are terrified of the cerveza sickness, do you think the fact they don't wear masks means that everyone's dying of the cerveza sickness here and it has horrible? No. Go look up the number of cases and or deaths from the cerveza sickness in Armenia, and you will see it is better than most countries. Not perfect, but it's better than most countries, including a lot of countries like the United States that have mask mandates. Now, some people here, I would say 1 out of 10 still wear masks just by choice. A lot of old people or some old people. And if you go into, for example, a bank or a government building, they may tell you to wear a mask just there, but everywhere else, everywhere outside, everywhere indoors, restaurants, malls, offices, no one wears masks. Hotels, it's so nice. I landed in Armenia wearing my mask in the airport, and immediately I realized people weren't wearing a mask in the airport. You don't have to wear a mask at the airport. I'm like, what the hell? And my driver came up and introduced himself, and he wasn't wearing a mask. I'm like, thank God. I pulled that thing off. I have not worn my mask once on this entire trip, except for one visit to a bank about 3 days ago, where they made me wear a mask while we were sitting in the bank. And even then, even in these places where they tell you to wear a mask, the attorney that I was with in the bank, the entire time he was there, had his mask pulled down so he wasn't covering his mouth or his nose. He just had a chin bib going on, And the security didn't care and no one gave a shit. So even in these places where they kind of make you wear a mask, if you pull it down, they don't care. It is just very, very relaxed here when you compare most Western countries to everyone being hypersensitive and terrified about every little thing. Armenia is one of those countries where they're just not worried about that stuff. And it's not bad. There is not a huge cerveza sickness problem here in Armenia. If you don't believe me, go look up the data. So there you go. Wonderful, no masks, love it. That is one of the biggest things I will miss when I leave Armenia next week and I go back to Dubai and the rest of the Western world is off to start wearing a mask again. But this has been nice, and so if you want to break from wearing masks, come to Armenia. You do not have to wear masks outdoors or indoors. Awesome. Next good thing about Armenia, and I was very surprised about this, I had no idea, almost everyone speaks English. Almost everybody. So Armenia, most people here, not everybody, but the vast majority of people, or certainly more than 50% of the people here, they learn Armenian, which is their language, of course, and in school they're taught Russian because this is a former Russian country. And they're also taught English. So very rarely will you run into someone who doesn't speak English. I've run into a few people, but just about everybody here speaks English. Super impressive for a small little emerging market country like this. And again, I'm accustomed to places like Paraguay where no one speaks English at all. And if you find someone who speaks English, it's rare. You're like, oh, thank God, someone who speaks English. But everywhere, I have been all over the city and I've spoken with all kinds of people on the street, vendors in stores, attorneys, bankers, what have you. Everybody speaks English, including people who you wouldn't expect would speak English. Like, going to a convenience store, the little girl behind the counter, she speaks English. The people who don't speak English would be people like my maid from here at the hotel. She does not speak English. But I've run into maybe, I want to say 2 people who have not spoken any English here. Pretty awesome, very nice, huge benefit of the country that I was not expecting. I'm very, very pleased about this. Number 3 awesome thing about Armenia is, as I mentioned earlier, it is in terms of laws and regulations and restrictions on day-to-day behaviors, outside of cerveza sickness, just normal stuff. Armenia is a very relaxed country, very similar to a lot of countries in Southern Europe. For example, they have a big giant opera house here, and there's this giant parking lot in front of the opera house. And at this parking lot, they rent out little motor scooters and dirt bikes and go-karts and things like that little kids ride around. And when you go there, you see all these kids just driving around these little mechanized vehicles. There's no walls, there's no cones, there's no safety equipment, there's no lines they have to follow, which is what you'd have in the United States. You have all these things in Canada, the US, the collapsing trifecta, collapsing USA, cuckoo Canada, and suicidal Europe. In all those cases, you'd have all these cones set up and people monitoring these little kids and make sure you drive in this way because we don't want you to get hurt. None of that. They're just all driving around and it's wonderful. No one's getting hurt. All the adults are cool with it. Everyone's fine. It's in terms of regulations and laws, it's a very relaxed culture. As a libertarian and as a lover of freedom and as an alpha male 2.0, I love countries like this. Mexico is similar, but this is even more relaxed than Mexico. It's awesome. Another example. I just saw this the other day. I was doing my morning brisk walk as part of my cardio yesterday morning, and while waiting for a light, there were these 2 little boys, and they're probably about 10 years old, and they're punching each other for fun. They're smiling and laughing, and they're not wrestling or playing. They're punching each other. And the parents are just like, oh, no big deal. And there's adults around, and these kids are running around a circle, and they're punching each other, and they're having a great time, and not one parent was concerned. This would never happen in the collapsing West. United States, Canada, Europe. This would never happen. As soon as one kid punched another kid, all these terrified mothers would descend upon them and say, no! And all these fathers say, don't do that, it's not appropriate. And they'd all be worried about this. These kids are having a great time. No one was getting hurt. They were boys being boys, and no one gave a shit. I love this stuff. This is a perfect example, as I've talked about in my other videos and my blogs, how you can move to a country that maybe theoretically is less free on the index of economic freedoms when you rank a lot of these factors. But in fact, if you move to that country, you will actually experience more personal freedom. As I've said many times, if the typical American moved to Mexico, and technically Mexico is a less free country than America, but if you, as an individual American, moved to Mexico, you would experience more individual day-to-day freedom than you would in the United States. Because they just don't give a shit in Mexico, and they really don't give a shit here in Armenia. Awesome. Another example of this, and I just kind of tacked this on, just remembered this, and this doesn't apply to me because I don't drink alcohol, but if you do drink alcohol, most people do, If you go into a convenience store, like a 7-Eleven type store, you have all the liquors right there. It's not locked behind a special thing. It's not unavailable in certain stores. You'll have wine, you'll have hard liquor right there. You just buy it, and you just buy it like any other item in the store. There's no special regulations around liquor, which is pretty cool. Again, I don't drink. I've never been drunk in my entire life, but most of you like to drink. It's another lifestyle benefit when you live in a place with relaxed laws, lax regulations. Now, I should add one more thing. When I say relaxed laws, I'm not saying they don't have laws. I am sure there are a lot of laws in Armenia here that apply to these things, but they're just not enforced. They're not enforced. Great. That's the same thing. You see my point. Before we go on, there's something you've got to do really quick. You need to subscribe to this YouTube channel, which is very simple. Just click that button. You need to like this video. You need to click the dumb notification bell, and you should comment on this video. And it doesn't matter what the comment is. You can comment on anything you like. I don't care. The more interactivity I get on this content, the more of this content I will produce for you for free. So this only benefits you. Now I'm going to get to the neutral things about Armenia. These are not good nor bad. They're just interesting factoids that I've noticed in the last few weeks here. Number one is the alphabet here is weird. They have an Armenian alphabet, and basically every letter of this alphabet is variations of the letter U. So imagine an entire alphabet based on the letter U. So you see, it basically looks like this. U, 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 U. So half of a U, a full U, an upside down U, a U with a little tail, a U with a thing over it, and then another U, then an upside down U. It's all U, 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 just versions of U. It's hilarious. It looks really weird. I mean, it's as bad to read when you're a Westerner as Arabic. But at least Arabic looks very pretty. I live in Dubai, so I see a lot of Arabic. Arabic looks like a squiggly line. That's what Arabic looks like. When you write a sentence in Arabic, it's a squiggly line with some dots. And it looks very pretty. Arabic looks beautiful. I mean, if I had more time, and I don't, I would learn to read Arabic because I think it's just a very beautiful looking language when you write it on the piece of paper. But Armenian is U, 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 U. Very, very weird. Do not expect, if you visit Armenia, to see a lot of signs in English. There really aren't. There's some of that, but most of the signs are in Armenian, and so don't be surprised. Plus, I have found that, at least on my phone, the Google Translate app really can't do much with the Armenian accent. It takes one look at those U's and says, man, I don't know what the fuck that is. So you're kind of on your own. And also when you go to the grocery store, it's not like stuff is labeled in English and Armenian. It's pretty much all Armenian. So just be aware of that. Now again, everyone speaks English, so it's okay. You can always ask for help. But I'm just saying, you will see this alphabet everywhere. It looks really weird, and I just have fun with it. Next neutral thing is how the men look. So the men here are small. They're little, which is not surprising. Most men in Europe are small. I've talked about how Europe, everything is, when you're an American anyway, and you grow up in the United States and you're very American, as I am, and you go to Europe, everything is small. The buildings are small. The people are small. The cars are small. Everything's just small. The rooms are small. The hotel room, this hotel room is tiny. This is a very nice hotel. This is one of the more upscale hotels in Yerevan. But this room is tiny. It's like being in a closet. Not quite as tiny as Japan, but close. It's pretty small. And so the guys here are little. Armenian men are small. I am 5'11", barely 5'11", and I am one of the tallest guys in the city. Just about every guy I see as I walk around is shorter than me. I can only imagine what these people think of me in terms of my physical appearance. It's obvious that I'm a foreigner because I am a giant compared to these men. Not only am I much taller than all these guys, I'm also much bigger. I have blue eyes. I don't look Armenian at all. So I probably stand out as I walk around. I'm probably very obvious. What the fuck? Look at that foreigner. Jesus Christ. So who knows? But the guys are little here. They're little guys. Also, facial hair and beards is much more of a thing here, which is kind of unsurprising because Armenian men have very thick, stubble facial hair. So you'll see a lot more guys with beards here than in most other countries, most other Western or quasi-Western countries. At a very minimum, they're gonna have a very deep 5 o'clock shadow, but beards are really common here with dudes. It's just part of the style. The next thing about the people here is that they are, and this surprises Armenians when you say this, but it's true, they're reasonably subdued, quiet people when they're out in public. Now, Armenians will joke about how they're intense and they get very emotional. And they do that, I've noticed, when they're kind of sitting down away from the world. Then they get kind of worked up and emotional, much like Italians. But just walking around Yerevan, they're very subdued and they're very quiet. Not nearly as quiet as Japan. but nothing near what you'd see in Italy, where people are laughing and joking around, in Latin America, places like that. It's a very more subdued vibe when you walk around. There's some other reasons I'll get to in a minute, but it's something that's very different, very interesting. Before I get to the women, I'll cover them in a second. There's a video I did on dating women in other countries. If you have any interest, you can click that video right there, and that'll help you out. But another thing about Armenians is that they don't smile. And Armenians will talk about how, yes, we don't smile, but we're very friendly, which is true. So it's weird to be in Armenia, to be in Yerevan, and you're walking around and everyone just kind of stares at you like this. When they look at you, they're just not angry, they're not pissed, they're just staring at you with this kind of this neutral but somewhat harsh stare. Men and women both. They just look like this all the time when they're walking around. Now, when you talk to them, then they're very nice, they're very sweet, they're very happy people. That's one of the big benefits here. Armenians are very nice. Everyone I have met, everybody I've met, men and women both, are very nice here. They're very sweet. And if you crack a joke, then they will smile and laugh. But just walking around, and when they talk to people, they don't smile, with rare exceptions. So that might throw you. If you go to Yerevan and walk around, you'll think, God, why are people so pissed? Why are people so mean? Why are people staring at me like this? Very similar to Russians. That's not how they are. They just don't smile. It's just not cultural here to smile or put on a relaxed, friendly face. They just stare at you. And then when you talk to them, they lighten up and they're cool. It's very different. Most countries where they are very stern and they look at you very sternly either are people who are assholes like New Yorkers, or people who are very robotic like Japanese. It's not like that here. They look like that. When you talk to them, they're very nice. Very interesting. I don't know where it is in their culture or their history where they started doing this, or if they're always like this. Maybe I should do some reading on that. Very interesting. Another interesting thing, neutral thing about Yerevan, Armenia, and Armenia in general is that there is a complete lack of Western, or I should say American, franchises here. For example, and you're going to fall over when I say this because I'm shocked, I still can't believe this, there are no McDonald's anywhere in this city. I have never been to a city anywhere in the world, and I have been all over the world. I have been in scores and scores and scores of cities and countries. They all have McDonald's. Even if you go to, the middle of nowhere in Paraguay has McDonald's and Starbucks. They don't have McDonald's here. They don't have Starbucks here. There are no Starbucks here. Very strange. So you've got Burger King here and you have Cinnabon here, and that's it. You have no other franchises. Now, you might consider that a good thing. I don't consider it a good thing or bad thing, just a very interesting thing, an interesting thing of note, because this is the first city I have ever been to in my life, anywhere in the world, where you didn't see an absolute invasion of American brands. Very interesting. Now, really quick, if that last cut, that last edit looked a little weird, or if the lighting looks a little different now, it is because as I was recording this video, the entire power went out in this hotel. So I will get to that when we cover the negatives of Armenia in a minute. Before we get to the negatives, that's the very next thing I'm going to cover. If you have any interest on designing a Five Flags lifestyle or needing my help in designing a lifestyle like this, including getting location independent income and things like that, you can join my SMIC program at joinsmic.com. That is my monthly mentoring and audio training program. Check it out. There's a lot of content you get there for very, very cheap. And you work with me at least twice a month in kind of a group coaching setting. Check out the website. A lot of stuff there for you. Have fun. Okay, let's get now to the negatives of Armenia. And no country is perfect. Every country, as I've said many times, every country in the world sucks. It's just that some suck less than others. There are no good countries anywhere in the world anymore. And there haven't been for quite a while. I would say at least 20 years. This isn't a cerveza sickness thing. This is a collapse of the Western world thing, and an embrace of authoritarianism thing, and an embrace of socialism. A lot of other political topics you already know about that we don't need to rehash. So, are there some negatives in Armenia? Yeah, there's some negatives. And some of them are kind of significant. And the first one is the women here. So, before I get into the women, I know that a small percentage of you who lean more left in your political thinking are going to think that as I describe the physical appearance of Armenian women, you're going to think or say or imply that I am racist. Left-wingers' favorite word, their response to every argument, he's a racist. Racist! So, before I get into how Armenian women look, if you have any temptation to say or imply that I'm a racist, I would like to remind you of a few facts first. Number one, my son is black. My own son is black. The son that I chose on purpose, who I adopted and raised as my own on purpose, is black. It's not like I had a drunken fling one night with a black woman and got her pregnant by accident and then had a black kid. No, I adopted him and raised him by choice, and he's black. Number two, my last girlfriend before my wife was Asian. Dated her for years. Not only just Asian, she was fresh off the boat Asian. She was real Asian. Number three, my last FB, my primary FB in the United States before I left the United States this year was Mexican. I have written entire articles on how black guys or Asian guys or Indian guys can hook up with white girls, which infuriated a lot of my Trump supporter audience. If you want to say or imply that I'm a racist, you are welcome to do so, but you're going to look really, really stupid. And I know some of you, it's a small percentage of you, but some of you, as I'm going to say what I'm about to say, you're going to be overwhelmed with the urge to call me or imply that I'm a racist. You may not say that word, but you'll do the thing where people say like, oh my God, you said Mexican, shaking my head. Just be aware, do whatever you want, but you're going to look pretty stupid. All right, with that disclaimer aside, Armenian women are not attractive. Now, I understand that attractiveness is in the eye of the beholder, and I understand every man has different tastes. I have said that before about China. I love China. When I go to China, it's exciting. I love being there. But I've also said I can see millions and millions of Chinese women over a period of a week, and I can see one or two that I think are attractive because I'm just not attracted to Chinese women. That's kind of the case here. Armenian women have very pretty features, and they have really great dark hair. I'm starting with the positives here. I'm going to sandwich this stuff with as much positive as I can. Their hair is great. If you like thick, dark hair, Armenian women, they are for you. It's very, very good. The problem is they have gigantic noses. And this is nothing new. Armenian women know this. That's why many Armenian women, when they move to the West, they immediately get nose jobs like Kim Kardashian, all the Kardashians did, because they're Armenian. So this is not an unusual, shocking thing to say. They're well aware of it, but they have big, giant noses. And unfortunately, you'll have women here who are very cute, or maybe even borderline pretty, but they have gigantic, gigantic noses. Well, Caleb, what about their bodies? Well, you have a lot of women here who have big tits and or big asses, but they're not good. The shape isn't that great. And maybe I'm spoiled because I just came from Latin America. I spent a month in Paraguay and 2 weeks in Mexico, and in Latin America, particularly Paraguay, they have the best asses in the world there. And so the quality of the bodies here are also not that great. They're just not. I'm being objective here. I'm telling you how I see it. I've been all over the world. I've seen women all over the world, attractive women, average women. Now, I'm not saying Armenian women are ugly. They're not. They're not ugly, and you can certainly find, and I always got to say this, you can certainly find women who are cute or attractive. You can, they do exist. There are just not very many of them. You're going to be looking very hard. It's very similar to my experience when I spend time in New Zealand. Women in New Zealand are just not attractive. They're not ugly, but they're just not attractive. So if you want someone really hot in New Zealand, you're going to be looking really, 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 really hard. If you were very picky about how attractive the women are you have sex with, day game and night game would be very difficult here. It just would. Now, if you're not picky about it, then it would be fine. As I said, Armenian women are very friendly. I'm just saying if physical attractiveness is a big thing for you, and it is for most guys, you're gonna have to be a little flexible on your attractiveness standards if you wanna spend a decent amount of time in Armenia and have sex with a lot of women in Armenia or date a lot of women in Armenia or run game in Armenia. Be aware of this. Also, I got to throw in another partial negative there, and this is not based on my experience. This is based on a lot of men I've talked to who have done game in Armenia, night game and day game specifically, because online dating really, that's another thing I should say. Online dating really is going to help you here. Armenia is a very low population country. This is Yerevan. This is the biggest city in Armenia by far. Most people in Armenia live in Yerevan, and it's a city of 1.4 million people. And so the dating apps are pretty sparse. So if you want to actually meet women here in Armenia, you're going to have to do day game or night game, unfortunately. Now, if you like those things, great. But if you're an online dating guy, it's going to be difficult. Not impossible. Okay, I didn't say it was impossible. I said it's going to be difficult. Adding into the fact that a lot of women here, most women here are not attractive. Unless you're pretty lenient about the type of women you have sex with. I mean, every guy, like I said, every guy's different. But the other thing I was going to get to is Guys tell me that Armenian women are very friendly and they're very fun, and that is absolutely true. They're really cool people here. The men and women both are great, but they are also pretty traditional, and so you're going to run into the problem that a lot of guys run into in a lot of ex-Soviet countries where they're very traditional. And you're going to go on several dates or several meets before you actually get to sex here. That is my understanding from guys that have told me who have a lot of experience dating Armenian women who live in Armenia. So take that as you will. That's one of the big negatives here is that, and you know, I have to admit, I am a little biased. So let's factor that in there. I certainly have a bias. I live in places and I spend time in places where the women are gorgeous. I live in Dubai, which is like hot girl haven. I live there. I spend a lot of time in the United States, and certain places in the United States, the women aren't attractive, but good-looking women are more plentiful. Places in Latin America where their bodies are amazing. So maybe I'm coming at this from a somewhat biased viewpoint. I fully admit that. I am sure, as always, I'm going to see some comments in this video of some guys saying, what the hell, Caleb? You don't know what the hell you're talking about. I love Armenian women. I think Armenian women are gorgeous. Just like when I talk about Chinese women, I'll always get one or two guys say, what the hell are you talking about? I love Chinese women. I think they're hot as fuck. Great. If you think Armenian women are attractive, by all means, come here to Yerevan. This is a great, great country. Next challenge with Yerevan specifically is that the air quality is not that great. I've mentioned this when I talk about places like Bogota, Colombia, certainly places like China. Now, it's not nearly as bad as those places, but if you look across at a distance, there will be a haze that you see, even if it's not very far off. There are a lot of yucky and interesting smells all over the city. You're going to be smelling a lot of, it smells like exhaust. It smells like cars. I think the main problem here is their cars. I think their emission standards are such that just the air smells, and it smells like exhaust or rotting motor oil and shit like that. You'll smell a lot of interesting smells here that are not variations of food smells, which is what you'll smell in Hong Kong. You'll smell like the harbor. You might smell like the food. No, here in Armenia, Yerevan, you will smell mechanized life gone wrong. So it's not very air quality friendly. If I lived here, I would make sure to have some really, really good air purifiers in my apartment and my home. I do that in Dubai anyway. I do that wherever I live, but it would be a double priority here in Armenia because the air quality just isn't that great. Hopefully, as Armenia rises, they will clean that up, very much like Colombia is trying to do now. So maybe in 20 years, this will be less of a problem. Hopefully, we'll see. Next challenge in Armenia, and this is a pretty minor negative if you come from the United States, specifically the West Coast, where I used to live, where every major city in the United States on the West Coast has been taken over by camps of homeless people, by tents that go on and on and on as far as the eye can see. So Yerevan has none of that here. There are no tent cities here. There's anything remotely like that I have seen here, and I've been all over the city. But you do have beggars here. You have people who will come up to you and beg you for money. Often they may be the ones who don't speak English. Just be ready, you're going to be accosted. Now, they're Armenian beggars, so they're very friendly. So they're not going to be aggressive and really bug the shit out of you like American beggars do and other places. So as soon as you say no or just even shake your head, they immediately just leave and go bug the next person. They don't pester you like they would in many other countries. So that's something, I guess. But you know what? I will take the occasional beggar who leaves me alone as soon as I do this over tent cities all over my city, like in the collapsing USA. But technically that is a negative here. Last negative of Armenia, and it's kind of a problem, and it's nothing to be shocked about, is that this is an emerging market. This is more of a second world country, and so the infrastructure here is definitely not up to first world standards. My internet here has been kind of dicey some days, and I am in one of the nicest hotels in the nicest part of town. So, which is easy because it's so cheap here. I didn't mention that, by the way. Armenia is very cheap. Cheap, but there are a lot of cheap countries, but Armenia is certainly in the cheap country category. It's awesome. So you could have a nice hotel room here for very, very inexpensively if you're using American dollars or Western currency. Anyway, despite the fact that I've had several days where the internet just stops working, days where the internet kind of goes up and down. When that happens, I run a ping test on my laptop where I'm repeatedly pinging the same address. And what you're supposed to see on a ping test is reply with some low numbers. And instead you'll see stuff like reply, timed out, reply, timed out, reply. It's just not really strong here. And what you'll have to do is either, what I usually do is, as always, I buy a local SIM card whenever I arrive in a new country. So I have mobile data on my phone, and I will just tether my SIM card to my laptop, and that will always kind of get me out of a jam if I'm in the middle of something, although it does slow the internet down, and you'll have issues with you may suck all the gigabytes out of your SIM card. Minor things like that. As I mentioned, while I was recording this video, the power of this entire hotel went out for about a minute. Dead. It just died right in the middle of recording this video. Stuff like that happens here, and that should not be surprising. If you go to the second world, this happens. When I go to Paraguay, things like this happen too, just the way it goes, par for the course in places like this. Not a big deal if you're expecting it, and if you have backup plans. So the internet is kind of critical to my work, so I can't be without the internet. That's why I have a backup plan at all times. If I'm anywhere in an emerging market country, if I'm using the Wi-Fi for the Airbnb or the hotel that I'm using, I also have a backup for my phone, and I also locate a place that I can easily walk to that has Wi-Fi. So here, there's a coffee shop. I mean, I'm downtown, so there's coffee shops everywhere, but there's a really good coffee shop right around the corner that has pretty good Wi-Fi. And so if my phone didn't work, I would immediately go down there and just continue working. So you want to have backup and contingency plans whenever you visit kind of a second world type country like Armenia. Not a big deal. Also, you'll have little things in terms of emerging markets, like many of the taxi drivers here are not super honest, and they will rip you off. Now, fortunately, everyone here knows this. So there are specific taxi apps that you can use where these taxi drivers are vetted and monitored. But if you just hail a taxi on the street, especially if you're a foreigner, but even if you aren't, be prepared to get a little burned. Now, Armenia is so cheap, it may not even matter. I mean, for example, if you're a Westerner and you make decent Western income, we're talking a few bucks, we're talking $2. You know, so $2 versus $3 or $4. Are you really going to care? Maybe not. But that's just another example of emerging market problems that shouldn't surprise you. Again, just be aware of these things and have backup plans. That's it. That's the rundown on Armenia. Overall, I love it. I highly recommend it as a flag. I think it's great. Barring the woman problem, which could be overcomeable if you're a little creative. Armenia is great. I can't wait to come back here. I will be spending a decent amount of time here for the next several years, if not longer, because this is now one of my primary flags. And I've had a lot of plans for Armenia for a long time. I'm finally glad to finally come here. And I'm so happy that I like it here. I love Armenia. I think it's great. It is a great, great country. And I highly, highly recommend it. Speaking of hot women in other countries, if you're interested in the top 10 best looking women in terms of top 10 best looking countries, you can click this video right here where I give you a full analysis. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Have fun. Bye.